No, Tyler, that is the idea. Tyler knows this to be a fact as well. Never be the main character on Twitter.
Nope. That is the one place you just don't want to be on the main screen on, for sure.
You just want to live in the background, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Canada, I don't. Yeah, because like if this is the case, John, it sounds to me like Priestman, like the framing of this to me suggests that Priestman rolled in there and was like, y'all have this semi-intricate.
Well, but Priestman was a disciple of Herdman's anyway.
Yeah, so like you got this thing already in place. I'm not going to tear it down. I'm not necessarily going to make it better. I'm just going to kind of keep rolling with it.
Yeah. The machine's in place. You got a payroll to meet.
It's amazing how long it's just continued to go. Like, I just, it's the whole thing is just a saga that it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when Herdman, the beauty of it, once again, when Herdman denied using it, basically then 17 players watched the video of Honduras in 2021. A source in the room talked to Westhead. Herdman said what he said, and then a source talks to Westhead. You don't want to be the main character on Twitter. To be more blunt about it, the question is legitimately, in my time as head coach at Olympic Games or World Cups, we've never been involved in any of those activities. Sources in the room heard that quote and were like, bruh. and went to Westhead, and Westhead was like, a source told me this, 17 players were in a room against Honduras. But Herdman's like, at no time, source was like, bruh. That's where we are with this. And
he never said anything about World Cup qualifiers, John.
No, he never did. Or CONCACAF. He never said anything.
Gymnastics.
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean this was rhythmic gymnastics soundbite press conferencey stuff from Herdman back last Friday before Red Bulls. And I mean, what he did in his gymnastics is that he tried to stick the landing from a double twisty, double Sukahara layout off of the pommel horse or whatever. But this and the other element in this, obviously, you feel for the players here, but the people that are sitting there and saying, you shouldn't punish the current batch of players because of the faults of the past. That's not how this works. Under any circumstance, Tyler, this is not how this works, sadly.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. It's an unfortunate situation. Like, you have to do something. It's not like you can go back in time and punish everybody back then at that moment, as much as we like to wish that we could at times. But no, I mean, you've got to handle it now. You've got to do it now. And it just so happens that, the players and everybody that's involved there now are in an unfortunate situation that wasn't caused by them.
Mm-mm.
And you kind of just have to take it on the chin and move forward and try to regain some kind of honor amongst everybody.
Yeah. So, Jarrett, what do you think the odds are today that Colombia just does a kickabout and tries to not make sure that Canada qualifies?
See, that's where it gets interesting there is because everything's kind of still up in the air. It would behoove Colombia to win this game. I do want to point out that Canada is still very much alive here. They're sitting on 0 points.
Mm-hmm.
If New Zealand pulls a rabbit out of their ass and beats France
at a -900,
and yes, in which case maybe France should have done spying. I mean, espionage. Come on, France, it's right there for you. It's your word.
Is that a baguette in your bicycle?
That's actually a long scope lens.
There you go.
But if that happens and France wins, and I think if the goal difference is enough, like France could legitimately win the group outright. Like there's a level, like there's almost a certain level of spite powering the Canadian players that is low-key admirable.
Mm-hmm.
I think with all of this going on, Canada's program is just clown shoes.
Mm-hmm.
But I will never underestimate the ability of spite to power someone to get something done.
Yeah.
And if that means that, like, Canada somehow gets through this and through the group stage, I'm kind of going to be laughing and crying and throwing up at the same time. That's okay.
Group A right now, and the way that it stacks up is that it is action at 11, 1, and 3, because it's only 3 groups as opposed to 4, which is what FIFA would like. The IOC has basically said it's going to cost us too much money to go to 4 groups in this tournament and go from 12 teams to 16, kind of like, I don't know the men. Right now, Colombia has 3 points. They're on top by 1 goal of goal difference over France. And then Canada with their -6 and New Zealand are both at 0 points. So Colombia right now could have a kickabout. They'd get to 4 points. If France beats New Zealand, they would be at 6. So that's what you're staring at. You got 2 teams at 3 points. Canada and New Zealand have no points. But the matchups today are at 11, 1, and 3. Group A's matchups are at 3 o'clock. So as you are preparing for, if you are here in the Atlanta area, your ingress to Mercedes-Benz Stadium to take a peek at Chelsea and Club America, you can keep an eye on what's going on in Group A with a bit of a charged phone and a side interest. So you got stuff going on here. Brazil and Spain and Japan and Nigeria are at 11 o'clock. On Telemundo and Peacock, Brazil and Spain. Spain is a +130. Japan and Nigeria, Japan's -215 at 11 o'clock on Universo and Peacock. Australia and the U.S. The U.S. is at a -180 in Marseille, and that is on USA, Peacock, and Universo. Zambia and Germany. Germany's a -700 against Zambia. Take the over, probably, maybe, perhaps. Just thinking. And then you have Colombia, Canada. Canada's a -150.
John, I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm froze, or you're froze.
There we go. And great. Yeah. So I froze and it bumped everybody out. That's beautiful. And this is the thing of all of this. Thank you, Tyler. My internet's being moody. I don't know why.
Making sure it wasn't me.
No,
I always fear that it's
no.
gonna freeze in the worst possible, and I'm gonna be like,
No, it's me. No, you always try to sit there and you come up with the still in television where you're going to lose your signal and you get that frozen piece of video. If it's a headshot from the last video that's frozen inside the time-based corrector, you're like, you don't want it to be like, one of those.
Yeah.
So
my wife was texting me and she's like, I think you're running the show now.
Yeah, you were. You were for about 20 seconds because it's the internet provider that I have decides to take the most inopportune moments during the day part to try to sit there and run analysis and specs and things. So, yeah.
It's like doing road work at 5 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon.
Yes, exactly.
Let's just do it. Going southbound out or northbound out of Atlanta.
Yeah, and everything just kind of jams up at the Eagles Landing exit. I know how. Yeah, my internet at times is the Eagles Landing Parkway exit.
That I feel for you immensely, my friend.
I'm doing sports talk. All right, so you've had a couple days, and this is what I like to do. After a couple of days of kind of letting things just kind of decompress a little bit, the Leagues Cup madness that was there is now halfway through as we wait for group match day number 2 with Santos Laguna on Sunday. And Rob was less than happy after the result, and understandably so. And we had the discussions earlier in the week about penalties and things like that. But now that you've had a couple days to kind of decompress and look back at what we saw against in match week number 1 in this group stage, what sticks in your head?
Atlanta played pretty decently, minus the really bad mistakes that really, really cost them. I thought, the fact that you can come back from so many positions being down and still draw the game, there's something to be said about that. However, you can't put yourself in that position. And Rob said it, and I think everybody kind of said it that night. But Rob, he said, I'm angry, I'm pissed because we gave DC 2 goals, and we should not have been in that position at all.
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta played better than DC for, 80 minutes of the match, but then you had the two really, really horrible mistakes. And look, I always have to go back to the point that I think been trying to like preach. Maybe it's the hill that I'll die on. I don't know.
The labor of Sisyphus for Tyler.
Yes. Players are human beings. They make mistakes, and people must remember that. It is okay to criticize constructively. Absolutely. I mean, that's what we do. That is kind of like the whole reason we're here. Just, don't be hateful. And I saw some of the stuff about Slish with the penalty misses, and it was just disconcerting because, like, take away how he is as a person, but like, just be nice. Like he had a bad penalty. I don't even want to say that he made a mistake. He just had a bad penalty, which every soccer player that's ever played for any longer than a game where they shot penalties has had bad penalties. It just happens. So, and then of course you get back up there, and it was like a Shakespearean tragedy. I said this on our show the other day, but like, it just seemed like the universe was aligned against Bartosz Slish and Brooks Lennon and Josh Cohen that day.
Yeah.
The mistakes happened. Josh Cohen comes out. He has the flubbed clearance that leads to the goal. Brooks Lennon then has the kind of errant header back pass that leads to a goal. And then you kind of, Atlanta starts working things out. They figure it out. And then, of course, Slish has the penalty that's blocked. And then you get into actual penalties for the shootout. Josh Cohen saves the penalty to keep his team in it, right? And you're like, oh, hey, this is that redemption moment. And then Brooks Lennon walks up and misses the penalty. And it's like, no, Brooks, it's just all going against you today. And then, of course, it ends with Slish. So it was like just this bad, Shakespearean comedy, tragedy, whatever. But Slish was beside himself after the game. I know you were down there. He was so upset. And he is probably the one on the team who wears his emotions on his sleeve more than anybody, I think. He doesn't take losses well. Like, he gets frustrated. He gets upset.
Well, this is new for him. He's used to being at Legia Warsaw, where you're trucking through your first division in Poland. You're going to European competitions. You're playing knockout football against heavyweights across the board. This kind of level of competition, this even Steven level of competition that you have here in Major League Soccer, where every week is a street fight, this is new for him.
Yeah, 100%. And I hope he never loses that mentality of being that upset when they lose. Because that's a winner mentality. I mean, now it might not be great on his stress levels, but
especially as a newlywed.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that. But he came out, and I genuinely thought he was gone. Yeah. I thought he was like out of the building already. And then he comes out, and of course, got to ask a couple of questions. He was beside himself. It took him a minute to answer the first question. Yeah. And I only say all that and describe it because I think people kind of, not anybody here or just people in general, but like, there are a handful of people that I just feel like need to realize that these people are human. These players are human. He felt the entire weight of the team on his back that day. And, kudos to Dax McCarty for talking about how the team went in and lifted him up. And they said, look, we're going to go beat Santos Laguna. This will be a thing in the past. It'll be a memory. Not a big deal. Like, it happens. And penalties, like he said, penalties are a crapshoot. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So, it sucks, but you still got a point out of it. Thankfully, Leagues Cup is made in a way where you can basically win a game and make it through.
Yeah.
So now they just got to go do it against Santos Laguna,
who is not very good.
Not very good at all.
And they, for those that do not follow Liga MX on a daily basis, last year in the Clausura, they finished 15th out of 18. And I think they only won 4 matches in the Clausura. This season in the Apertura, before the Liga MX break going into Leagues Cup, they are 16th, I believe, out of 18, and have yet to win in their first 4. So everything is aligned here involving Santos Laguna.
And short rest.
Yeah. Because Santos right now is the one team in group that has not played. And so that's you've got that going with it here. And so Santos has to make up that match. And it's tonight on the free side of Apple TV. So Atlanta United and anybody that wants to wander into the building on Sunday afternoon is going to get a bit of a scouting report on Santos Laguna, unless you want to send a drone to Philly and see what's going on. Because this is, we talk about tournaments and how weird things get. How weird is it, even though it's, I feel like match game. Leagues Cup is so weird. How weird is it? Your stadium is so bad when it comes to the turf surface. Excellent plug, sir. He's always got his mug ready. That you're not allowed to have a home game. Your home game got moved up the belt line, through the belt line, past Baltimore, and over to Philly because your stadium sucks that bad with your surface, which has been horrendous. We've seen that surface be horrendous in MLS Cup play. Atlanta United, DC United, last time they were at Audi Field, it looked like a driving range at like Saturday afternoon at 6:30, where they took all the mats away and all you got to do was practice your chipping, and everybody out there from golf camp showed up at 10 o'clock in the morning and they're chunking everything. Yep. Literally, that's what Audi Field looked like when Atlanta United played there.
Mm-hmm.
And so Leagues Cup is like, no, bro, it ain't happening there. You're going to Philly. So you get a home date taken away from you. And I imagine DC United's got to pay for that out of their own pocket for everybody to move to Philly to play in Chester. And Philly's like, oh, cool, revenue, no, they'll probably use it to, I'll leave Rich for the punchline there. But it's just right now you get a scouting report here on Wednesday. Santos Laguna has to turn around and come here and actually play in a building on Sunday afternoon. So it's a chance for folks to sit there and see what Santos Laguna can or cannot do leading into the weekend, where Atlanta United will know what they have to do to get out of group.
Audi Field is always the embarrassment anyway. So the fact that it was like, match day minus like 2 hours when they came out and they were like, yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Like the first salvo in Leagues Cup drama.
Yes.
I'm here for it. Whatever. Like, I'll take any advantage Atlanta can get, but it is embarrassing. It really is. So, but no, Santos Laguna, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't even, like you said, I mean, they've been bad, objectively bad. Like, they haven't won games. Mm-hmm. They haven't won. I don't think they've won a game since March, if I'm not mistaken. And then I think they've only scored one goal in those 4 games that you were talking about.
Yeah, here in the Apertura. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. They've only scored once.
So you've got things going for you. You really do. And you got to win. That's the message. And I'm curious from Rob Valentino's standpoint, if we go back and look at the kind of like win or go home games that Gonzalo Pineda was in charge of, mm-hmm. Admittedly, the record wasn't great, right? But I think Rob has brought a little bit of a different mentality. And I think the ultimate test of whether that mentality is kind of sinking in and getting into the players is how they do in a game like this. It doesn't matter if it's Santos Laguna and they aren't great. It doesn't matter, that they're on short rest. It doesn't matter any of that. It's still a win or go home game, and it'll be a win or go home game, I think, for Santos Laguna as well.
Yeah.
You gotta come in and you have to show that these big games are a place where you can really, really prove what your team is about. And I want to see kind of how Rob has instilled that mentality this weekend. So, I mean, I have cautious optimism. I'm knocking on wood as I say that. Mm-hmm. But it's, it's an opportunity to you ended MLS play in a pretty decent place in terms of like where you were objectively. You are right there at the edge of the playoff line. You got to that kind of halfway break with, your head above water, even if it's just your nose above water, but you got there. Then you had this quote unquote break where you can still kind of, get the team more cohesive. You can bring in, guys like Alexei Miranchuk, which is great.
We were on a break.
Yes.
And then, you're kind of trending. I know this is kind of counterproductive to say after the DC game, but you're actually trending somewhat upward.
Mm-hmm.
You should have won that game.
Yeah.
Now you prove that you can win in a win or go home game. And I think it builds the morale a little bit, and you give yourself some extra time for Miranchuk to actually get in and be involved with the team in actual games, not just at the training ground.
Yeah, and since you're reading my notes and leading into the next topic, yesterday, it was the official announcement of Alexei Miranchuk coming by from Atalanta. Because when the show started yesterday, we had received on the social medias the 5 stripes don't stop.
Yep.
And when that happens, something's going to happen probably around 9:55 or 11:15, just right after the show is over. And
of course,
but. Sure enough, 9:55, Alexei Miranchuk is now officially official. And the opportunity that we had yesterday afternoon with Carlos Bocanegra, where he was describing the process and consulting with the National Hockey League. And that was something that we had thought about yesterday morning, that when you are trying to figure out how to navigate the idea of a Russian citizen coming to work here in the States, first folks that a lot of our folks in the Twitch pitch thought of was dealing with the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
And then Carlos dropped that reference in the press conference. And so now it's up to billable hours and the government, GUB''MENT, as to when Alexei Miranchuk gets to wander over and integrate. And I had mentioned this yesterday, that I was thinking that if that the LAG match in Los Angeles was going to be my marker. I was thinking that maybe have him there, but once again, we're at the mercy of everybody in Washington, D.C., but I'd given it enough space of, say, 3.5 weeks that hopefully something could be done, and that you weren't just being reactive. And it's like, oh, we'll sign him. Now we'll go to the government. Now you've been working this process, and it's like, okay, we got something coming, so that you're kind of shortening your distance a little bit.
Yeah, they've had this process in the works, right? Like it's not something that like you have to wait till it's announced to the public for you to start the visa and the work permit.
This is new for us. We've signed somebody. Oh, let's go talk to the guy.
Now let's go to the office and see what's up. No, that's thankfully that's not how it works. So
we're going to the Cook County Assessor's office and we're watching Steven Spielberg eat a sandwich. No.
Or, Zootopia in the DMV, and you're going to sit there and wait for the sloth to slowly sign something, and that's probably what it's going to feel like for fans over the next 3 weeks. But
yeah.
I like to think, this is the very optimistic part of myself, I like to think that because he is not coming directly from Russia, he has had like a buffer in Italy for years.
Yeah,
that may speed up the process a little bit.
You're dealing with the EU instead of something else.
Exactly. And when you have to go do the background and everything else, you have 4 years of history of him in a EU country, right? In a country that is not Russia, that they can look at and say, well, the kid just loves playing football, and that's what he does. And he just happens to be from Russia, like whatever.
That's the man's job.
Yeah, like he's doing what he wants to do. So yeah, I'm hoping it's quick, but I think the LA Galaxy game is probably the most realistic, maybe litmus test. It could happen sooner, or it could be like Jamal Tiari last year, and it could be way longer. Ooh. Hopefully, knock on wood, that's not what happens, and I don't foresee that.
Why you want to bring that kind of stuff out, man?
I'm only saying it to negate it out of the universe. Okay. I think that's my thought process. But
okay.
No, I'm excited about him. I think he's going to do well, and I do legitimately think he's going to be one of those guys that he isn't going to be your Miggy, right, or even your Almada. He's going to be a different player, but I think he's going to make the ones around him better. I think he's going to, maybe see the pitch a little more whole as opposed to individual. And this is all just based on stuff that we've seen, but I like to think he's legitimately going to make this team much better than it is right now.
Yeah, and obviously looking at AM, there's going to be some clock chokes in here somewhere. I've yet to figure one out, but yeah, with AM dropping to the ATL, we'll figure out what's going on. Obviously, you've got another 19 days before the window to close, unless you're a Canadian club and you only have 13, because they start their schedule a week early. They end their window on the 12th. Atlanta United's window and everybody else in Major League Soccer is ending on the 18th. And Carlos said that they're kicking tires. They're still, I mean, obviously this is not just the one thing that they're going to do in this window. It's like, yep, we're done. We're out. No, you got 19 days to think of something, and you're still kicking tires on folks to see what you can add. And as Carlos said, get in the playoffs and cause some trouble.
Yeah. And, almost 3 weeks is a lot of time in a transfer window. There's a lot of things that could happen between now and even next week. And you already know, right? Like, it's not, this is like some revelation where he was like, yeah, we're looking for another, player. Like, we know this has been happening.
I'm shocked, sir, that you would actually do that.
It is weird, I think to a degree that we haven't heard a ton of rumors, but that also happens, right? There are some times where even bigger players, sometimes things are just held way closer to the chest, and the Toms and the Fabrizios and the, those guys, like, they just can't get a hold of it for whatever reason. So you never know. Maybe something's coming sooner than later, but I would be absolutely shocked if we didn't see another very substantial signing before the end of that window.
Well, but the other element to this is that you don't want to sit here and negotiate publicly. Yeah, I'm interested in dude X.
Especially when everybody knows you have $50 million sitting in the bank.
Yeah, everybody's like, ooh.
Yeah.
And, it's not like you're hanging on to it like Montgomery Burns and going, oh, yes, excellent. Oh, look at Cartman. Look at all my money. It's not something like that where you're trying to figure out the future and what the next space on the interstate's going to be like and how you can attack things. So I'm always intrigued by transfer windows. I'm always interested in seeing what's going on. Columbus, speaking of transfer windows, you wonder, Columbus is like, okay, yeah, we're interested in this dude and this dude. They kind of sneaky get AZ Jackson out of St. Louis for $650,000 in Garber Bugs. And then they swap Will Sands and money for DeJuan Jones and money and Garber Bugs. So DeJuan Jones gets out of New England, and obviously that means that it's probably more minutes for Peyton Miller.
Yep.
But you're going, oh, wow. You just want to sit there at the end of the day and go, man, Columbus, well done that you got that kind of a move out of both St. Louis and New England. It's almost like literally it's like you're focusing on distraction. It's like, you see this over here, you don't want to focus on this, and by the time you're, it's like, what's in this hand? I don't know. And it's like, that sounds like a fantastic trade. I will go ahead and submit it. It's almost like you're kind of just focusing on, if you're Columbus, let's distract them and tell them this is a good deal. And they'll go and they'll agree with us that it's a fantastic deal. And by the end of the day, literally social media. Yeah, it was. It literally was. And social media after the DeJuan Jones, Will Sands plus Garber Bucks deal yesterday, social media, and I'm waiting for our buddy Shooter to come in on this one, where everybody's like, man, New England got absolutely fleeced. I'm shocked that would happen. But Columbus continues to just kind of do deals below the radar to add pieces and add pieces and add pieces. I don't know how many folks still sleep on Columbus just because they're third. But Columbus is just doing their thing. And by the end of it all, I think they're going to be the 2 seed, if not close to the 1. They're just doing their thing. And maybe it's because it's Columbus. I don't know. But they just keep doing this kind of stuff to make themselves better for the stretch run.
I will always look at Columbus in the past 2 years as if they took the literal page out of 2021 Alex Anthopoulos' playbook.
There you go.
I mean, what the Braves did in 2021 was phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
But that's just kind of what Columbus is doing. You know, you're making these moves, adding pieces that they may, you know, they may look good, right? But they're not ones that are just like earth shattering. But then they start playing and you're like, well, those pieces fit pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Like, and that's a credit to their scouting, right? And a lot of things behind the scenes that maybe we don't talk about enough. And it's also things that Atlanta right now is trying to do the same thing with. They're trying to emulate in a lot of ways. The difference is Atlanta, you know, is kind of working its way out of being mired with weird, you know, salary cap stuff and everything else. But Columbus is just doing their thing, and that's what they do. And you know, the fact that you could last year go and trade Lucas Ryan and then bring in a couple of guys, and that actually didn't make your season worse. It made it better. Like, you got to give them credit. And I agree. I think they're going to bounce up to probably the second place and be a pain in the playoff.
They are the perpetual. They have turned into the perpetual pain in the backside.
Yep.
They're a batch of sneaky bees in that front office.
Yes, they are.
And it's intriguing that folks just want to continue. Yeah, I'll trade with you. No, we want DeJuan Jones, and we'll give you Will Sands, and we'll give you $600,000 more. Okay, that sounds fantastic. That's great. You know. And speaking of, what is your overall opinion of Leagues Cup anyway?
I mean, my only point of contention is I wish that there was a universe where everybody could be happy. and by everybody, I mean the players playing a ton of games and being able to have the full Open Cup, because I love the Open Cup. I'm a sicko. I freaking love the Open Cup.
Right.
But Leagues Cup does offer something different. You know, I mean, the fact that you get to see these Liga MX teams that you're not always going to see, right? Like before, and Atlanta was lucky in the early years where we got to see some Liga MX teams because of Champions League and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to see them a lot, you know? And while there is absolutely some things that need to still be worked on, for example, playing in Mexico might be beneficial to give some validity to the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think I embrace it and say, look, I love the game and I love watching the game. And this is a chance for me to watch other teams that I typically won't get to watch. Even other MLS teams that I won't get to watch, because there's games going on like almost every day. And normally I don't get to watch a ton of other games because we're at the bins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I enjoy it. I'm enjoying it more this year, I think, than I did last year, because last year I was a little bitter about it. But I think it's here, right? Like, it's not going anywhere right now. So enjoy it while it's here and hope that between now and the next iteration, they can come to some kind of balance with the workload, the match load and everything else.
So if you're Eric Ramsey in your white T-shirt and zip-up sweater jacket up there at Allianz, according to John Marthaler, Ramsey wasn't too happy with his first Liga MX experience, singling out Necaxa's treatment of the ref and injured Minnesota United players. Quote, I think it's very difficult to watch that, particularly if it's a competition that really wants to take itself seriously and move forward. I hate to break it to Eric Ramsey, but if that's your point of view, son, you ain't ready for the Triple C. You are not ready. You are not ready for a warm night in the Monsters cage at Saprissa, sir.
Or the Thunderdome.
You ain't ready for none of that. I mean, good luck. Welcome to the part. You know, literally John McClane out the window. Welcome to the party, pal.
You know, that's the thing. Like, there's a handful of head coaches that have just kind of gone in on things. I mean, our good friend Dean over in Charlotte had some things to say.
Dean.
So again, it's not perfect, right? There's some issues, but I think some of the things that some of the coaches are kind of complaining about it, I agree exactly. Like, man, if you make it to first, second, or third in this tournament, and that is what qualifies you for Champions Cup next year,
well, you ain't going to complain. You ain't going to complain. You ain't going to complain if you make it in, but then you're going to complain all over again, right?
Yeah. Well, you're going to get there and you're going to be like, wow, that was JV league compared to this. So yeah, I think, I do feel like lately coaches have been whining a lot about stuff that maybe they shouldn't whine about. And then of course you had, was it Tijuana's coach?
Oh yeah, Osorio who went and threw a nutty of biblical proportions and got a 4-game suspension. Yeah,
yeah, that was wild. But like, hey, and as a fan, I'm like, well, this is fun. This is entertaining at least. Like, don't headbutt people. Like that's stupid. But I just think there's things about this tournament, right, that are not fair, and absolutely, like they need to be fixed for this to actually be a thing over the course of like the long term. But it's here, and as a coach, you just need to go into it, prepare your team, and get rid of all that outside noise, and go and handle your business, and understand that if you do make it to Champions Cup, and you're complaining about a couple of these little things, you're going to be in for a very rude awakening when you get down to, Costa Rica or somewhere random that you think, oh, well, this is going to be okay. And then you get down there and the atmosphere is so hostile, and the, refs probably aren't going to be calling things the way that you're used to.
You ain't getting a call for nothing, brother.
It ain't happening. So get used to it now. This is your appetizer for the main event. So figure it out.
Yeah. So here's Dean. For those of you that missed Dean, who's really not making a whole lot of friends.
No.
Dean, after the Philly match, which apparently set the sport back at least a good decade. I mean, this is like Kirk Ferentz stuff at Iowa. Charlotte and Philly. Philly wins it 1-0 on a goal by Ty Barbo. So after the match, Dean, quote, "I don't think it was one to watch back. It would have scorched my eyes. If we'd won the game, I would have said exactly the same thing. It was just a bad game. My brother came to watch his first game, and he actually said to me after the game, my Walsall team would have beaten both teams, and that was a League One team. So that tells you. After 20 minutes, I turned around to the bench and said, this is not a good game. We have to accept that and take responsibility for it." So Dean criticized the pitch in Philly. So if Dean is criticizing the pitch in Philly, and DC United Stadium, Audi Field, is so bad that the match that is supposed to be tonight in DC against Santos Laguna is moved to said stadium in Chester, Pennsylvania, where Dean had issues with the pitch, you've got to wonder how bad Audi Field was if you're moving it to Chester and Dean had issues with that pitch. Criticized the state of the pitch, although cameras at the game didn't show many issues with it. Smith said it directly impacted the play between the two teams. Quote, "A pass that was completed was a collector's item on that pitch." Have you seen Philly play? The amount of passes that went out of play from our team and their team was incredible, really. I was on the pitch before the game, and I said, what's happened here? We played there 4 or 5 weeks before, and it just looked different. It felt different, and you could see it scarring very quickly. I don't know what it was, but it was just one of those games that it didn't happen for both teams. So Dean, as he was referencing the lower tiers of English football, brother was in attendance, compared it to a League One side. It was his first managerial gig. Walsall was in the 3rd tier for each of his seasons, and though now Walsall is in League 2, they finished 11th in the 4th tier. So League 1, 3rd tier. So think of it as, AA, minor league baseball, if you want to come up with that kind of a comparison. So, Dean coached in AA, and so that's what he was looking at. He was not happy. He says, it would have scorched my eyes if I'd watched it back. So
that's gouge his eyeballs out.
That's what Dean thought about the matchup in and of itself. But that's what tournament soccer is. You navigate the day, you get through it, you go to the next. Ish ain't hard, bruh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm complaining about the pitch. I get so sick and tired of it. And
did you win? No. Whose problem is that? Yours.
Right. Like, and I understand, and I don't know what Audi Field looks like, but it must be pretty freaking bad, like you said. And if there's like divots and chunks of the grass missing like all over the pitch, okay, that's one thing. But if the ball is just taking like an occasional weird bounce, Like, miss me with that, man. Like, you're a professional soccer player, professional soccer coach. You need to figure it out. That's the last thing you need to be complaining about. And I respect Dean. I really do, because I think he really is a phenomenal coach. But I get so irritated when that's the thing that gets talked about. And you want to speak of a pitch, right? Like, and you asked me, like, what have I thought about Leagues Cup so far? I didn't give you any examples of like games. I just told you my overall thing. But so there's been some fun ones, like San Jose, Chivas. That was fun to watch, right? Like Atlas and Houston, even though it was low scoring game, that was back and forth. It was fun to watch. You know what wasn't fun? New York City FC and Querétaro. That was
I didn't get I can't get my life back. I really can't. I'm glad I had other things that I was doing as I had the match on the big screen here in the office. Yep. I was actually multitasking and getting things accomplished. It was strange.
Right. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to get other things done while that match was going on. It was like,
I'm watching this match and can't turn away.
It was so bad. And look, I'm not going to beat the dead horse about Yankee Stadium. I'm not.
Why not? Why are you restraining your cudgel?
It's so irritating, but it wasn't even so much the pitch. I mean, it was, because it's always a factor on a baseball field.
The U12 futsal pitch, yeah.
But that game was an affront to soccer. Like, it was so bad. It offended me as a soccer fan. Watching that game was absolutely miserable. Absolutely miserable. It was like watching two U12 teams kick the ball around and hope somebody can have a halfway decent touch.
And we're offending U12 teams with this assessment.
I know, right? I know my son's probably out there like, hey, that's not right.
Bruh.
I could do better. Yeah, it was just bad. It was just bad. And it's embarrassing, you know. And I will always say that about Yankee Stadium. You're on Apple TV. You can watch anywhere in the world. Some random person's like, hey, let's go watch New York City FC. They're like the little brother of Manchester City. And then they turn that on and they see short, like second base. Like, and like, what are we doing?
Presented to you by Bally's Pinball Machine.
Yeah. So there's my soapbox. That was the worst soccer game I might have ever seen. I was so irritated when I got done watching that match.
Until the next match that you watch from Yankee Stadium or Citi Field.
Yeah.
Time to cut the promo, sir. What else is going on with Scarves N Spikes? Sorry, N Spikes, and getting the gear and what you're up to.
So we've kind of divided and conquered today. I will be with Henry up at the Chelsea Club America game.
Right on.
With y'all. So we'll be there, and then Sydney and Tommy will be doing the regular show tonight as well, and they're going to have Jillian Sakovitz on with them.
Wow.
Chatting Atlanta and Leagues Cup, having probably some of the same conversations that we're having now. But it'll be a good time. I think out of everybody related to Atlanta that we've had on the show, Jillian is far overdue because she's never been on before.
No. Absolutely, and it's always fun, and then hopefully Jillian can discuss the joys of motherhood, which
Absolutely.
is what has been going on since the last time she was on the show. So for those that wish to follow along on all of your social medias, how do they do it?
It is Twitter, Scarves, like you said, the letter N Spikes, Scarves N Spikes, and then Scarves and Spikes, and then myself, as John is doing the finger point, ATL Pilgrim on pretty much everything.
Yes, and so we'll see you tonight at Chelsea and Club America, and it will be very, very interesting as a part of Series FC, and see what's going on with that. We'll see what happens as Chelsea continues to not play a summer tour with Caleb Wiley in Caleb's old barn, and see what happens with that. As always, my friend. And where can folks get the gear, like the lid and the coffee mug and stuff?
Oh yeah. Just go to scarvesandspikes.com, go to the shop, get you a mug, beer glass, hat, hoodie.
See? Yeah, see. Oh, and that reminds me. I guess I should promote the same thing. Jason has a limited supply of these, our new one, and with the new network logo. So if anybody's interested, see if Jason has any of these left, and you can pick some of these up as a part of the new branding that we have this
dual
season.
Promos. This is awesome.
Wonder Twin Powers activated.
Yeah.
Shape of a rainbow, form of an eagle. One of those kinds of things. I will see you tonight, my friend. Thanks for dropping by.
All right, see y'all.
All right, Tyler is going to go and actually do things. And be productive instead of hanging out here with us and being off the rails.